Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani and welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism, narcissistic relationships, healing and coping from these relationships. I'm going to talk about the last of these personality traits today, conscientiousness. I like conscientiousness. Why? Because I was a great student and a college professor. We folks like that love conscientiousness. And this is the last of these big 5 personality traits, the ocean traits as it were, that we're going to talk about in this personality series. And again, it's conscientiousness today. Now remember, in this series, we're talking about your personalities and not necessarily the personality of the narcissistic folks. And in understanding a bit, I'm hoping, that understanding a bit about your personality, that you can also understand how this element of you can potentially make you vulnerable or be protective against getting into these relationships, how this might factor into maybe getting stuck or what it's like in the relationship, and also how having this personality style may affect your process of healing, especially if you get out. So let's talk first about what conscientiousness is. Again, it's a personality style that encompasses things like diligence, discipline, attention to detail, ambition, achievement orientation, being deliberate, and thinking before you act as opposed to being spontaneous. These are folks who are responsible, get things done, make the deadline. People who are conscientious are thorough, organized, and self-motivated. At a moderate, healthy level of conscientiousness, these are folks who make great students, great employees. They get things done, and they get them done on time, and you can count on them to get things done. Even if they have to overextend themselves to get it done, they'll get it done. Now, to that point, if conscientiousness gets too high, we can see an almost obsessive work ethic to the detriment of other things in life, like family and social relationships, as well as an over-focus on order and detail to a level that can also feel compulsive. If conscientiousness is very low, we may see impulsivity, disinhibition, and even sensation seeking to a problematic degree to where a person could get hurt or in trouble. Now, people low in conscientiousness often struggle as students. They struggle in detail-oriented jobs. It doesn't work many times. So could conscientiousness put you at risk for a narcissistic relationship? Now, certainly not probably in the way that agreeableness does or even how neuroticism does. If anything, conscientious people, I could see how they would initially be attractive to narcissistic folks because it is a personality trait that is associated with success, which makes sense, right? So the success element and the status element that come with it, I could see how that might draw in a narcissistic person. In a narcissistic relationship, a conscientious person may be really good at keeping the trains running on time, getting things done efficiently, and all of that may make the narcissistic person's life easier. Conscientious people almost make it look easy. They get everything done. But given that narcissism is often associated with impulsivity, you can see how narcissism and conscientiousness might even be sort of two very different styles. People much, much higher in conscientiousness may have an ability to compartmentalize a bit, put their heads down and get things done. And that potentially could give them greater endurance in a narcissistic relationship, merely because they're probably a little more distracted and the organization and the work almost serves as a defense against the chaos of these relationships. However, conscientious people who are often doers may also get frustrated because of all the logistical stuff and keeping things organized and getting things done. It may still not be enough for a narcissistic family member, a partner, or boss. So even that could result in some confusion or even some distress for a person who is very, very conscientious. Basically, no matter how good you are at keeping it organized, it's not enough. In general, obviously the more impulsive narcissistic people are typically going to be lower in conscientiousness. So they may actually originally do well with a low conscientiousness thrill seeker. But then if that happens, if those two people get together, I'm not sure who's going to be paying the bills. So those two low conscientiousness people coming together could be relationships that burn really bright and exciting and then quickly fritter out because there's no grown-up in the relationship. Now, on the back end, I don't know that a conscientious person would have any more difficulty with healing after one of these relationships ends than any other personality style. May even have a slightly smoother path. It may actually relate to the other personality styles that are co-occurring with the conscientiousness. For example, if there was also slightly higher neuroticism in someone, that would actually be what complicated the healing, but perhaps, the conscientiousness not so much. The end of a relationship does bring disorder and chaos into a situation. So that may be what could be uncomfortable for a conscientious person, who may then need to bring order to divorce proceedings and paperwork and finding a new job, things like that. Now, one little wrinkle in this is that there is one subset of narcissistic people who very likely have quite relatively high conscientiousness. And those are the self-righteous narcissists. The ones who tend to be workaholics, detail-obsessed, morally rigid, judgmental, all of that. But they also tend to be quite conscientious, like I said, workaholics. So they may actually initially vibe with a conscientious person. But conscientiousness by itself, people like that, they're not necessarily judgmental or morally rigid or dismissive. That's the narcissism part talking about, which draws that out. So a merely conscientious person who may be attractive to a narcissistic person may actually end up hurt by the coldness and dismissiveness. I have seen these pairings play out. The financially obsessive and disciplined and callous narcissistic person is attracted to and ends up in a relationship with a person who is just sort of normally conscientious and has a solid work ethic and shared goals of achievement and organization and order and discipline, but is then confused by how controlling and cruelly controlling that narcissistic person is about the finances, and may blame themselves for being questioning when they should be happy that someone else is managing the money. Note to the wise out there, don't let anyone ever sort of know where all the money is without you knowing it too. Now, conscientiousness is a good thing at that healthy level. I don't know that it's a risk factor for narcissistic relationships. If anything, it may provide some defense. However, it could make someone attractive to a narcissistic person, or leave a person who is conscientious trying to put their head down and conscientiously trying to work the relationship out through diligence. And that's not going to work. Discipline may work when it comes to a work deadline or getting a project done. It's never going to work in a narcissistic relationship. My conscientious students were my favorites when I was a professor because they would get stuff done on time and come to class prepared. You just need to have that conscientiousness at that healthy level so it doesn't become obsessive. And remember that low conscientiousness is actually something we see in lots of narcissistic folks who may not get things done and lack discipline, but then lean on entitlement to portray why they couldn't get it done. Oh, why should I have to do this, right? So again, for people who are not, for the folks not the narcissistic person, the you, conscientiousness, unlike some of the other stuff like agreeableness and neuroticism, which give us some real insights on the narcissistic relationship, it may just be a part of you, and if anything, it might get someone stuck in that thought loop of like, okay, I need to be able to make this work. I am so organized. I can figure anything out. Why can't I figure this one out? There ain't no amount of conscientiousness that's ever going to let that happen. Thanks again.